God, don't the bike ride. It's in 2 days. I feel sick. Hopefully I'm alive when this comes out. If not, in memory of.
In loving memory of Rosie Turner before she tried to cycle from London to Amsterdam. So obviously that was said in jest, but it's safe to say that Rosie was very nervous about cycling from London to Amsterdam to raise funds for ADHD Liberty and ADHD Adult UK charities, but I'm very happy to report that not only did she survive, herself and a team of another 11 legends cycled 180 miles, and they arrived in Amsterdam yesterday having raised £14,089. Oh my God, massive congratulations to Darren and the rest of the team. And it was actually Rosie's birthday yesterday, the day that they arrived in Amsterdam. So happy birthday to Rosie. I'm so excited to share this interview with you. It's a funny one because I always find it really difficult to interview friends because it just goes off on tangents. Like what you are hearing is about a third of the conversations had in this one sitting with my lovely friend Rosie Turner. We do go off on tangents. We talk over each other a fair bit. It is full ADHD friend mode activated in this interview. As well as being my friend, Rosie is really such an inspiration and provides so much support, not just to me personally, but to the ADHD community. So I'm so excited to share this episode. And yeah, just so excited. They bloody did it.
Though blatantly obvious, the late discovery, diagnosis and treatment at 38 for severe combined type ADHD in 2022 not only improved, but genuinely saved my life, which I have since dedicated to fighting for change amidst the global ADHD crisis. As the acronym suggests, I swear like a sailor, and each episode will contain sensitive subject matter, so please always read the description before diving in, where you will also find a link to resources for support. These crucial conversations with experts by lived experience are shared to inform, validate, shame eradicate, and unite the ADHD community, with a fair few laughs along the way. I've been labelled too much all my life, but finally I celebrate my too muchness and use my justice sensitivity to let the world know that ADHD presents differently in each individual. Self-diagnosis is valid and that ADHD is not a trend. ADHD is real. And I want all ADHDers of all genders to know you are not alone. The leopard is a symbol of Aberdeen, Scotland, where this podcast began. It also symbolises bravery, the reclaiming of power, and I'm a total hun. So leopard print has become the uniform of the ADHDAF community, uniting to support each other and push for change, which together we can make happen. We are the leopard print army. Hear us roar. Hi, I'm Laura and I am ADHDAF.
First of all, let's just dive into the quickfire question. So name.
Rosie Turner.
Pronouns.
I'm a she, her.
Star sign.
Libra.
Location.
London.
Occupation.
So ADHD coach, yoga, Pilates teacher, and part-time podcaster every now and then.
Yes! And your podcast is called?
ADHD Untangled.
Wonderful. Your favourite film?
Eat, Pray, Love. I know, cliche.
Is it? Oh,
yeah.
I love.
I don't watch telly much, so you know.
No, it's beautiful. Favourite animal?
I think dolphin, because it's like the nearest thing to a mermaid, and mermaids aren't real.
Yeah, they're the only mammal apart from us that has sex for pleasure, apparently.
Well, there we go. That's why I love them.
What city in the world are you most like?
Amsterdam.
Oh, well, that is fitting, isn't it? So why?
Well, because what I realised about Amsterdam is when I moved there for the year is what I love about it is they are very accepting of people for all that they are. They're non-judgmental people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my biggest values is to be non-judgmental and understanding. As long as you're not harming anyone, they're like, live your life how you want and be who you want.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I really resonate with that place so much.
Do you speak Dutch?
No, I tried it, but I can understand it a bit.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I'm like that with Spanish. I can understand a lot more than I can call to command and say. Like I know what people are saying, but it just takes me a minute to form the sentence and then the moment's passed.
Yeah. I always
Yeah.
think now that ADHD, I had a desire to learn so many languages, but I think my ADHD hasn't allowed me to do that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to
It
say.
will it would
I think it
definitely
just
make
didn't work
things
for me.
harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Planning. Love it or loathe it.
Do you know what? I love planning, but I enjoy it when I have not 100 things to plan. You know,
Yeah.
when I used to have like one retreat at a time, I used to love the planning.
Mm.
I think I like the bigger part of the planning. So like, you know, the early stage of getting the venue, doing the
Mm.
you know, the schedule, what we're going to do, all the fun activities. And then when it gets nearer to something, I find it so overwhelming. Like the little details of planning I do not like. But yeah, if I've got time and space and it's not, I haven't been very ADHD and took on too much, then I really enjoy it.
Now, what's that
But
like?
yeah. So I think again, ADHD takes the joy out of many things.
ADHD diagnosis status.
Diagnosed twice, actually. I've got two. I had an NHS diagnosis ages ago. So like, well, I say ages ago, it's like 2 years ago. It feels like ages ago. And they discharged me because I didn't want medication at the time. And then when I decided that, well, my hormones just got messed up and I found myself struggling so much, I wanted medication. They were like, no, you got to go to the back of the queue. And I was like, what? The queue's now double the time. So I had to go and get a private diagnosis, basically, and private treatment. Yeah, and
Bloody
pay for
hell.
treatment for a whole year.
Yeah, I'm back on paying at the moment. So you have since discovered that you also resonate with autism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a bit of a shock, actually, but
Hmm.
something that's been in the back of my mind for a long time. And I've just started now to take the steps and do the research.
So do you think, because a lot of people in the community, they start taking ADHD medication, and then once their ADHD is under control, they're suddenly aware of autistic traits that the ADHD was kind of keeping on the back burner. Is that what's been the case for you as well?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And the more clients I started to get that had autism as well as ADHD, the more I started to think, oh my God, I think a lot of this is resonating with me.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like my brain quietened down, and all of a sudden I could see I was getting, you know, I've always had this thing about routine, but I just thought, oh, it's because it's important to me. And maybe it's the ADHD of just, you know,
Needing the structure. Yeah.
Yeah. But actually my reaction and the way I deal with things when my routine is out is not normal. So that was one of the biggest things. It was my reaction to that. And also my communication skills, I've noticed massively is, you know, I can go quite mute and be very awkward. And then when I'm being very ADHD, like I'll chat loads. So there's a lot of that was happening. And stimming. Oh my God. I used to think that was just like, you know, part of my ADHD, but I've realized that the way that I stim and how often I do it is quite extreme. And yes, that was like the first starting points.
Would
and then
you care to give an example, or would you rather not?
Well, like for instance, chewing gum at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm going through probably, I reckon 30 to 50 a day. So if I don't have that, I can't sit still. I'm using Play-Doh at the moment as well as another thing. But I have to move. Like I have to constantly be doing something, repeating songs over and over and over and over and over and over again. You know, like the repetitive stuff is really a big way that I stim as well. Again, I thought that could be ADHD, but then when I got sent all the self-assessments by Mrs. ADHDs, who I've been talking to about it, came up highly likely on 2 of them that I've done.
So are you on a waiting list?
Yeah, so I've reached out to my original what's it called, psychiatrist who diagnosed with ADHD. He started the process, but it's going to be very expensive, so I'm just trying to delay it a little bit. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to pay for it because the wait list is very long as well for autism, which I don't understand because I think they've got nice guidelines, but I mean, I suppose they don't stand for nothing. I don't know.
I really appreciate you sharing this because always feel like, as much as I have a lot of conversations, like I'm only an expert by my own experience. So this really isn't my domain at all. And I know, obviously, I can't remember what the statistic is. Is it 50% of ADHDers are also autistic?
Yeah.
So, you know, there are going to be so many listeners are going to be resonating, and I don't know what to tell them. So thank you very much for sharing that. Like, with regards to getting a diagnosis, if you can see that you have those traits, or you resonate with some of the traits, and as far as I know, again, correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't, like, you can't take medication for autism, for example. Why do you want to get the diagnosis? Is it for validation? Do you think that you would get further support from it? Or how does it work?
Well, at first I was like, well, what's the point? You know, there's no point getting a diagnosis, and I really wasn't interested in it. But then I started to coach myself around it and thought, well, look what the diagnosis for ADHD has done, regardless of medication, because the medication has been very up and down for me anyway. You know, I think it is validation, and I think it's, again, maybe needing that extra bit of self-compassion for when things feel hard, because, I was ready to just not bother with it. I thought, you're not going to get nothing from that. But then I realised that you will get a lot from that.
And do you feel,
because again, I suppose as well, is it validation for those around me as well? I don't know. Like, I think, and I know it shouldn't be this way, but say like with my parents and stuff, you know, ADHD, as we know, still holds a lot of stigma in regards to people even considering if it's a real problem or if it's even real, because there's no blood test, no brain scan, but there isn't for autism either. However, I find that people tend to take that more seriously. Maybe there's a bit of internal stuff that I'm trying to get validation from people closest to me as well. And that's not very healthy.
No, it's not. But this is the reality of the situation.
But maybe there is that in me. I wonder if there is a bit of that. But I think I'm at a stage in my diagnosis that it's like delayed grief.
I was going to say.
I think I'm very much in that stage where, you know what I was like at the beginning? I was in relief. Oh my God.
Relief, which is also kind of denial, I think, because you're not understanding the magnitude of what this actually means forever and ever. Like, you just say, oh, thank God it's that. And like, oh no, 100%. Is that forever? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I skipped, like I always do, just run head first and skip the first steps of anything. And I was in relief for so long, which felt great because I was just never beating myself up for things. I was like, this is fine. And I think I've got to a stage where I know I can't keep actioning myself out of certain, I suppose, healing really and acceptance, that I'm an action taker, and I'm always like, right, if there's a problem or if there's something going on, I'm going to work on it and I'm going to make it better. And I think I've got to a stage now that I'm starting to realize that it's not a negative thing, it's not a weak thing to sit and have to have a moment where you're going to focus a little bit on the negatives that have come for this and what happened in the past and what this has meant, you know, being able to sit with it basically and not feel like you have to do and solve it. Even things like therapy, which I've never really been a fan of for myself, because I've always thought, I don't want to live in the past, what am I going to change? But now I realize how valuable that can be alongside action taking and future focus.
100%.
Work with a coach. So I think that's maybe where that's come from as well, because I'm starting to want to.
You have to face it
some of the stuff. Yeah.
100%. I just think it's so interesting. Like, I spoke to Priyanka the other day, who was interviewed on the podcast 18 months ago. And it's so interesting to look back, because we've all been on this safari together on the late discovery roller coaster. Yeah. And I just also think it's absolutely ridiculous that I even thought in my head that we'd already done this, but we haven't, because you've interviewed me twice on your podcast and you came on once, but we didn't do a full episode. And then you messaged me the other day and you were like, can I do an episode? I was like, what is she fucking talking about? She's already been on. But yeah, of course. And I was like, oh no, we actually haven't done that. We haven't actually done this, which is ridiculous because we're in contact so much. And as ever, time just flies by me, struggling to keep up. I miss more than I think I do. That's something I've recently become aware of. I think things have happened that haven't happened, or I think I've said things that I haven't said, or I think, and I'll be like, oh no, that's just in my head. Is that my very full head is like, oh fuck, Rosie's not actually been on as a guest. What the fuck? I've literally been speaking to you.
Yeah, but I think as well, it's me pulling away from it. You know, I think I've got more confident to. I feel like this was my time to do it as well. But we do have ADHD as well, so you are going to think you've done things that you haven't done. And we chat all the time, so it's probably why. We probably know, like we know.
It's part of the furniture, but I hadn't actually done it, so I'm sorry for that.
Oh, don't be sorry. I feel like I've got something to talk about.
So, tell me, what led you to suspect that you had ADHD?
I got to a point at I think I was 32 when I put my form in, or something like that. But I think I'd lost all hope in my lifelong hunt to feel normal. And I think I'd got to a point where I'd spent years living in extremes and playing all these roles, ticking all societal boxes, relationships, trying to hold down jobs, and getting to a stage in my life when none of it seemed to solve the problem that was still within me, which was, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'd been doing yoga for a long time. And with that came a lot of awareness and an ability to pause, which I'd never been able to do before. And there was no excuses anymore. I'd run out of excuses. So no hangovers, obviously there were hangovers, but not like they were, not every day. And yeah, I was, losing my keys 10 times a day, which was fine. That was part of my life. That's what has always happened. But things even felt like they was getting worse, like leaving the car doors open, all 4 of them all day. A neighbour knocks on the door 6 hours later and goes, hello, your car doors are open, leaving the hobs on. So there was that day-to-day stuff that I was noticing, thinking, but you're not even getting drunk, you're meditating, you're doing all this stuff. Like, why can't you do these things? But the big thing, I think, that made me realise there was something else going on is I was, after years of being in long-term relationships and then having these big U-turns of like, right, I'm just leaving, self-sabotage, walk away. I was in a relationship that I was really happy in, and felt really safe in, actually. And all of a sudden these feelings of self-sabotage came back, which I now believe is, the dopamine side of things, of being unstimulated and things like that. And I self-sabotaged that relationship. I was self-sabotaging it. And then it was at that point I couldn't, the other relationships I could sort of pinpoint on it being toxic or abusive or, all these other things. And this time I had to look at myself, because I was like,
this one's on me.
What? This is on me. Like, maybe it's always been me. And that's when I think I just felt hopeless and thought, right, there has to be something, that I'm just fucked, basically. Like, I'm either fucked up or there's something going on. I don't know what it is. So then you Google and ADHD comes up, and I was married to someone with ADHD, and I just thought, well, what's that got to do with anything? And then I started reading it a bit more, and I was like, right, okay, this might be it. Put the form in, didn't think much of it after that. And then when it's 18 months later and, I have that diagnosis, which was ridiculous. He was like, what is this going to change for your life? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You tell me. But I went on a hunt literally the same day. I think I listened to your podcast because someone recommended it. All the others were in America. And then I listened to a TED talk by Jesse McCabe, got in my car and was going to France, actually. And I was like, this is everything. This explains so much. And no one else can feel like this and get to this point. Like people have to know. And it was in that moment I just decided that I'm becoming a coach. Don't know if it exists, like an ADHD coach. And in the meantime, I'll start a podcast. And that was literally it. And then I feel like I haven't stopped until now to actually sit back.
Because that's when you messaged me. Because you were like, I listened to it because we have a couple of mutual friends now anyway. But you messaged me and was like, yeah, we talked about the podcast. I mean, it literally feels like a lifetime ago. Do you remember? And you'd message me at like 5 a.m, and I'd be awake.
It feels like 5 years
like,
ago.
hi, new friends.
Yes. like, oh my God, she gets up at 5 too.
What I think is really interesting is what you said. Well, I think it's all really interesting, but I think I really resonate with what you were saying about alcohol, because that was such a barrier for me as well. We know that it's very common for ADHDers to have alcohol misuse disorder, or just use it to numb their feelings, as a social lubricant, everything else. It's like, I would do all of these things. I would lose my keys. I had to leave the house open for about 2 days because I couldn't find my keys. Like, all these things that I was doing. And I always just put it down to, oh, I was so hungover. Oh, I haven't had enough sleep last night. Well, I didn't get into X o'clock, so that's why I'm not functioning properly. That's why I'm messing up. So in a way, it wasn't really until I stopped partying like I was like, oh no, this is happening regardless. Like, something else is
life
going
still
on.
Feels chaotic. Exactly. And it's like, it was chaos. Even before, it'd be like loads of social plans I'd book, and I'd be like, oh, that's why, because you're always socializing.
Yeah.
But actually, when I stopped partying, it was like, well, now you're doing loads of yoga events and you can't keep up, and you're still double booking yourself. And you still do it. Life still felt chaotic, even though it was calmer in ways, but it was still, the same things were there, but in a different way. And it was like, well, now, again, it was like, I think you get to a stage, don't you, in your life where it's like, there is no more excuses.
Yes, yeah.
Like, I can't blame this on anything else or anyone else. This is me. Like, and I don't know what to do about it. And I think that's why this, a lot of people talk about it, and obviously trigger warnings, but I think that is why, suicide's so big in the community, especially undiagnosed, because you do get to a point where you're like, I don't know what to do with it. This is me and who I am. And
I can't fix it.
And am I just a bad person?
And the wrecking ball that has swung in, bashed up your relationships, like you said, education, work, everything. It just, people just find themselves in a hole. Like, I honestly, because obviously, that's how I got here. Was I'm very lucky to be here. And like, I just remember thinking that I was the only person in the world that was struggling in the ways that I was. Why can't I manage a bank account, hold down a job, all of these things? And as you're getting older and older, 38 or 39, whatever I was at that point, you're just like, fuck, I'm fucked. Everyone else is all right, and I can't do life at all. It's so scary. And then you pair that, of course, with, the emotional side of ADHD. So you're feeling everything tenfold. It's a really, really terrifying thing. And that's really what inspired me to do this. We have to keep making this noise because lives literally depend on it. They really do.
100%. And I think that's it. You go back to that version of you and think of people now there.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, they need to know.
Yeah.
Because, that could be it for many people. And it has been. We know that. So it's like, you want them to have that hope that you lost. And thank God we got the answers. Yeah. But people need to get them quicker.
They really, really do. And we have to say again, I know that you said that you went for a diagnosis, and obviously you are on a list now for your autism diagnosis. But we have to remember to say self-diagnosis is valid. It is.
Oh, 100%.
And it has to be.
100%. And as soon as you think that, that's the thing. It's like, as I said, the diagnosis, the man in the chair that gave me the diagnosis, that didn't change anything apart from me thinking, oh, this is a thing. I had to go and read. It wasn't until I listened to your podcast and the TED Talk that actually that sunk in. And that's what changed. Yeah. It wasn't someone sitting there. And I know loads of people, men mainly, that have been diagnosed ADHD their whole lives. And they are now coming to me and calling me. They didn't get the support. No. They didn't get the understanding. It's now they're getting it from their own research and seeing what everyone's shouting about. So diagnosis or not,
you've still got it. Like if you don't,
your own version, you've got it. Yeah. So I think that's also something to remember if you cannot get a diagnosis at the moment. Is it? I know medication is amazing for a lot of people, but the most important thing that's going to give you more hope is that self-compassion,
connecting with community,
which you can get for yourself.
Looking at the ways in which you uniquely struggle, because we know that ADHD presents differently in all people, because we've got our co-occurring conditions, we've got life stuff, different things that are going to, under times of stress, our symptoms are exacerbated. The ways in which you are struggling and finding ways to support yourself, and you don't need anybody's permission to do that. Like,
No way.
you don't need a piece of paper to do that. So let's go back. So you said, obviously, what has changed for you since identification diagnosis is you changed your whole life. You changed what you were doing. You decided to become a coach, and for yourself, you had that compassion of, oh, I've messed this up, and it's this and it's that. Like, what is there anything else that you want to add to that? Is there anything else for you that has changed?
Yeah, well, as you said, like everything has changed in my life. Like my purpose, my work, mainly. Relationships, like stripped away a lot of relationships, not because you fell out of people, but I think I've got more meaningful relationships, the ones I do have now. And I'm able to set boundaries with other relationships. I think that's been a big thing. But I think ultimately is that self-belief. It's still hardwired, that lack of self-belief. And I think that is the biggest struggle we all face. I think that is the most detrimental thing ever. But I think I'm able to now work on that and know how important that is and why that lack of self-belief and confidence is there. And I think slowly I've been able to raise that my confidence a bit and self-belief because of realizing that I've had ADHD. So that self-hatred and all that beating myself up, which happens a lot, but it's in a different way and it's not as detrimental because, as we said, like before, it'd be like, I hate myself so much. Oh, I don't want to be here anymore. Whereas now I'm like, right, that's not on the cards. And I think I haven't planned to do that since. So I think that's been the biggest thing that's changed.
100%. Right? It's completely...
You still have lows, but it's different.
What about... Yeah. So you said you're finding it... Well, I'm sure you didn't say easier, but you mentioned boundaries. And obviously that's the big one. When you came and spoke at the Brighton Alien Nation, I actually changed the ending of the RSD2 segment to talk about boundaries because I realised that I was still nowhere fucking near with the boundaries. How is it that you've found you're able to implement them better? Like, what is it that you're doing?
Yeah, so this has been quite new on the journey. I'd say the last 6 months that I've been able to actually do what I say. Not all going to do with them. Because I think for ADHD, it's like, what is that word beginning with B, basically? And what I had to do is what I do with my clients, but with my own coach and stuff, is work out what was important to me, like my values, what I need to thrive and feel confident and good in myself, especially when it comes to people communicating with me, was the first test. Knowing, for instance, that I don't want people calling me or messaging me or talking to anyone before like 10 o'clock or something, because I need that time
get your head in the game
myself and things like that. It was really getting clear on my boundaries in each section of my life, breaking it down. So I can't do everything all at once, even though I feel like I want to. And that was my starting point, is communication with others. And when people are overstepping my boundary, like calling me at 7 a.m, turning up at my door or something whenever they feel like it, I've been able to communicate it, but in a way that isn't aggressive or feels rude. Because I think I've always felt like they'll think, oh, you're egotistic. Yeah. So always coming up with a solution and just saying, I am just currently not using WhatsApp for work, for instance. I'm now transferring over to Telegram for all work stuff. Yeah. So I'm going to block you, not because I don't love you, but I'm going to block you from my WhatsApp and I'm going to set up on Telegram. If it doesn't work for you, you can text me. Now, that first time I did it, was like, oh my God, you're a fucking diva. You're a diva. That's how it felt, yeah. But and once I did it once and I felt that uncomfortable feeling and it worked, and the calmness that I felt, and they were fine, they had ADHD too. So obviously that's why you have to manage the RSD side of things as well. But after I did it once and noticed how I felt after, that calmness in my body, my nervous system feeling better, me showing up better for others, not being resentful and angry and stressed, I thought, God, this feels bloody great. So it was doing it that once that now I'm able to pause in moments and think, right, is this something that needs to have a boundary on? And I'm able to implement it a lot easier now because of just actioning it,
seeing the result.
Area.
Yeah. It's
and seeing the result.
Because that's what so I changed my number, as you know, and I still haven't gone back on WhatsApp, and I still have a bit of guilt about it because I feel like there are friends that I'm not in touch with as much as I would like to be, because as we know, the days just go. But I do hear you. I do feel so much calmer for it. And I think that it's one of those things, isn't it, where it almost feels a bit silly. So it's like, is it really necessary? But actually then you feel the benefit of it. It's like, it's one less thing to check on my phone. It's one less thing to worry that I haven't got back to people.
Simplify.
It's one less, and actually doing it that way. Because at the end of the day, anybody could send you a voice note on Instagram, actually. There are still ways and means, but it's just like simplifying it. I've taken like Patreon and Discord are no longer on my phone. It's just little things that are not so that my phone isn't constantly going on all these different platforms at once. It's just made me a lot calmer. So yeah, it is good. I'm
so glad that you did that as well, because you were one of those people, and I think that's why I'm like that with WhatsApp. It's just some apps we're just very reactive to. We feel like we've got to respond straight away.
It feels immediate.
You were very like that. Yeah. And I think, and even that, so, I don't use texts a lot, but I now know. That's why I said, oh, maybe I've just not added her on WhatsApp. I didn't know you deleted it. And when you said that, I was like, no, never say sorry. Yeah. But now I know, I've got to check that because I don't have notifications on my texts, to check in with Laura. Yeah. But you know that you will go, people will go and do that. Yeah. And it might not be as much and often as easy, but when they're meant to and you really need to, people are going to contact you.
People are still there.
And I think that's amazing that you've been able to do that and see the benefit of it, because too much noise. We've got so much noise in our brain with ADHD that I've been talking about essentialism quite a lot, which I listened to on a podcast. It was like 2 hours long. And I think for people with ADHD, I think essentially, asking ourselves, is this essential for me? Simplifying and going back to basics as much as we can is key, because we've got so much going on.
And we've only got so many spoons.
Exactly. And we're going to keep losing these spoons if we have too many of them.
Exactly. Okay. As we've said, self-diagnosis is valid, but one of the main points of this podcast has always been to push for systemic change and have the conversations all around the subject. So I'm handing you right now a magic wand. And with that magic wand, there are no limits. You can change the system right now so that people who are in danger, as we've already said, don't have to wait the best part of a decade to get medical help for ADHD. What is it that you would do if you could just have that power right now?
I think to start with, to get the list down, magic wand stuff, is obviously it's going to take some time and money, that they just go in now and just be like, right, we've got this list, let's get through it immediately. Right, we're going to take it off the GPs, we're going to invest in specialists and, get this list down, get these people seen that are currently on the list so we can start from afresh. But I think going forward, what the biggest thing is, and more for prevention of that not happening again, is education for all the people. So people in schools, universities, prison justice systems, charities that deal with people that are homeless and with addictions and stuff like that, even AA meetings and, all those places. Educate them to a point that people are so specialized in neurodiversity that they know what it feels like, how it can show up, so they can signpost, but not even just signpost, that they can create environments that, for instance, in a school or university, that it's a place they can thrive in. They're not just told that, you can't do this process. So you basically, you said you're not going to pass. And this is, giving all these self-doubt and criticism to these people and making them feel like they're not enough. Actually start to adapt for differences. Yes. And that's not just for ADHD, that's for individuals. I think, everyone is different. Everyone learns different. Everyone needs different things to thrive in workplaces, in all these things. And start to come from a more individual mindset overall, then these things won't be a problem as much as they are now in general. So I think invest now, save money later, save lives, and just I think that's how we create a better society, is by treating differences like ADHD. Yeah. But I think you've got to have people in these places that really have the desire to want to learn and support and know the importance of it, and some real in-depth education, like lived experience.
Yes. Patient-led.
We need people in these places with lived experience, whether it's kids that they've had with ADHD or their families or themselves, people that are really going to get it. Yeah. Is what I would do. I mean, I don't know what the answer is at the moment, but I just think without the money and desire, I just don't know how we get like this down right now. And no one else is doing it. No one else has this problem. Like Australia, they write, I don't know about you, but they always send messages. And they're like, we're not having this problem.
Do you think that,
just
interested in your opinion, this is just an opinion question. Do you think that diagnosing somebody with ADHD needs to be as complex when so many of us can say, I don't think that when you are ADHD, you have I don't want to use the word superpower, let's say special skill in which you can read other ADHD people and know that they're ADHD within seconds. I think that there are some very obvious traits. So
the ADHD radar.
Yeah. Like, surely if we can do it, then why does it have to be hours and hours and rigorous tests when actually, anybody should be able to see very quickly?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if they can add in to the diagnosis process, things that are missing that are very integral, like emotional regulation and, RSD and things like that, I think 100%, simplify it, because I've had people, like, it's still happening today, going in and they're not diagnosed with ADHD, but they're just given them antidepressants.
Yes.
So if you can do that in seconds, which really makes someone, it's really helpful and useful for a lot of people, obviously, but they're walking away feeling quite shit, actually, because, again, it's a negative that they're putting on them straight away and just going, oh, you're just depressed.
Yeah.
And that sort of, they feel like it's put on them as if it's their fault.
Yeah.
Right, I'm depressed, I'm not doing enough, and now they're just giving me medication, right? So if you can do that in literally less than 15 minutes, if you've got someone who really knows ADHD, ask the right questions and does that in a, that far away, plus our brains work twice as fast anyway, so we could do it quick, then I think it should be simplified. I don't think it needs to be so complex.
I agree.
There's too many steps.
I agree with you.
Too many steps.
So what do you think is your greatest ADHD struggle? Say ADHD and autistic struggle. Give me one of each. What is the thing that on the daily is the most likely thing to trip you up?
I think day to day is restlessness, which can show up as overthinking, anxiety, but also that ability not to sit still, because that's where I can either self-sabotage in work, like take on too much. That's where I could go into addictive patterns like over-exercise, or even fall back into, more dangerous addiction. So I think that restlessness for me is day to day is the biggest struggle. But also, as I said, the self-belief overall, I think, is my
that's the add-on, isn't it? That's kind of the what you get for going most of your life not knowing what was going on.
Yeah. And I think that was for autism as well. I think self-belief that is probably the biggest struggle for the autistic side, is you just don't feel very confident a lot of the time when the autistic side shows up. I feel awkward and I feel like, I can't do this thing, and without all the right things in place. And
for a lot of people that I've spoken to with ADHD have said that they feel this conflict in their symptoms.
Massive conflict.
Yeah.
It's like the ADHD wants novelty, wants stimulation. The autistic side wants repetition, which can be very useful at times. But trying to find some balance or contentment in life when you've got two completely different sides of I always feel like it's different sides of my brain sometimes. That's one really wants to go out and connect with people, for instance, and go and have all the fun. And the other side's like, right, we're about to go out and now I can't leave the house because all these steps aren't in place and my morning ain't gone well and it's not gone to plan. And then that hesitation can come. So even in those moments, it's like I'm fighting with two versions of myself and I don't know what to do. I don't know who to please. It's like, what do I do?
I guess, as you said, you're still figuring this bit out. So I'm guessing you don't have all the answers, but I know what you do and what you have done for a very long time is your yoga. And I'm guessing that is very, very helpful.
Oh, so helpful. I think movement in general has been the biggest game changer. The morning routine, which gets out of hand and gets longer all the time. That's been so useful. And again, there's been parts of that have gone to an extreme, an ADHD extreme, where they've damaged my body. And now, as you know, I've not had a period for 2 years, and it turns out it's probably a lot to do with over-exercising.
Oh, no.
But without it, I don't know what I would have done, because it's my anchor.
Yes.
And especially yoga, because, I do dynamic practice a lot of the time. But by doing that, I'm able to really relax and actually chill out. And now I can go to sound healing once a week. I just lay there. I can do that.
Yes.
I couldn't have done that before without getting into yoga, doing movement, having a morning routine. I love to meditate now. That was really difficult at first, but all of that, yoga has absolutely been the gift that's kept on giving, and movement in general. I think that's been the game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And then adding that with now, having mentors and coaches that have ADHD that are doing things that I want to be doing with my life, role models, has also been another way that I've managed that.
Now this is something that I'm getting to. This is something that I'm realizing is I've made all these connections and I've reached out to people, and what has been missing in all of this these last couple of years is kind of me, my actual support. Like how do I cope? Like I've worked with a couple of really brilliant coaches, but there's never been any real direction, because I just explode for an hour. I go, and we haven't actually got to the point of putting any strategies in place, because there hasn't been any routine to it. It's been kind of as and when, and really looking around me and going, okay, who are the people that I know, and how do I actually look at that? At the end of this month is going to be the last episode for a little while. I'm actually going to take a fucking break, Rosie. I'm actually going to take a break.
You deserve it. Oh, that's so special. It's giving me goosebumps.
Let's go back on track. As many a string to your bow. So you're doing coaching, you do yoga teaching. I've seen you've been at some festivals. I want us to combine our festivaliness at points as well. We need to do more collaborating in future. Tell me what you got going on.
I had an idea at 1 a.m. a few months ago. Where
the best ideas.
This is when this is where I thought, there's something missing from what I'm doing. And it was the movement side of things being collaborated with the coaching. So I've now bought a different part of the business, that name, and it's the ADHD movement. And what happens now is, instead of just one-to-one coaching with me, I've created a platform. And then when I was doing it, trying to get other teachers on board, I was like, wait, there is no one that's ADHD movement teachers. So now there's the ADHD Movement Academy, where the first training I'm doing is a certified training for yoga teachers, so they can support themselves firstly as yoga teachers of ADHD, because what I've realized is the way we make an environment, an ADHD friendly environment, is representation first and foremost, authenticity. So that's one of my first trainings that I'm going to do, and I'm hoping to just expand that into wellness. Because
I've got Kim Pierpoint, who I did the retreat that we recently did. She is a yoga teacher with ADHD.
Oh yeah,
so maybe you should get it. I'll put you in touch or something and see if there's anything
way
to collaborate, because she is incredible. She really is.
Yes, I think it's so good to collaborate, and I think that's where magic happens.
Exactly.
For individuals with ADHD, because they're literally fools. Intentionally be able to sit and go, right, what you said, you're at a stage in your life, your business now in your life, and you're like, what to do next? How amazing. Like, I've always responded to going to intense 5-day retreats away from everything to discover what's my next step.
Yeah.
It's always worked for me. So imagine like us, even now, you'd go, right, just put me away for 5 days to focus on what I need to do. There's no other distractions. There's no life stuff. Let me work out what it is that I want.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I saw you were at Happy Place Festival, and you did a couple of festivals, didn't you?
The first one, I was so nervous. I hadn't taught for so long. And then when I went to Manchester, I just found my confidence, and it was so amazing. I couldn't believe the feedback. And all it was, Laura, was for once just going up there saying, look, the reason this is an ADHD class, there's some tangible things, but ultimately showing up as your true authentic self, blah, 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 blah. And people wrote saying, I've never felt so safe and seen in an environment in my life, and all from yoga, right? And I can relate to that, but to be able to give that to others was so
it's incredible, Rosie. It's so good. And
it's movement, like they just were able to, they didn't care that it wasn't about being able to do the poses.
Just
being seen,
That's so good. It's so good. Do you think she wants some bingo?
I'm sure she would.
So at the moment, you are on ADHD medication?
Yeah, I'm on a really low dose now. I've gone back onto it recently. So that seems to be working for me at the moment.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
I know I've had some difficulty getting hold of it, but I used that directory thing and managed to find some. Have you been all right in the shortages? Or
I think I had 1 month where I couldn't get it a while back, which made me realise I was on a too high dose anyway. So it was good that happened to me, I think. But yeah, I've been really lucky for some reason, touch wood.
Good. Because we talked many times on this podcast about how they say that receiving a late diagnosis in life is similar to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's grief cycle with the 5 stages of grief, but we see it more as like a roller coaster, really, because it changes all the time. Now, you are now in that place where you're sitting with it and working through it rather than just feeling relieved about it. Where do you think you are today on that cycle?
I think acceptance, I think I've got through to accept, because even in the delayed grief, I just really, if I notice myself going too far, I don't want to ruminate there, right? I want to heal, but I was like, I don't want to stay there and paralyze myself. So I think now I'm in that stage of accepting it. And I say it all the time, accepting that it will always be a struggle and it will always be there, but there will always be strengths too. But accepting as well, like it's not going to happen overnight.
No,
like,
and every day's a new day. Sometimes
every day's a new day. Yeah, like I think I've got a humble outlook on it now, of like a more realistic outlook, but that wasn't there before.
That's so good. That's so good. What do you think? I mean, we have touched on this already. What do you think undiagnosed ADHD costs you? You talked a lot about confidence, relationships. Is there anything else that needs to be added, or do you think we've covered all that?
Yeah, I think definitely confidence is the big thing, but you know, also my health. I've been thinking a lot about that, the addictions that I've had over the years. God knows what that's done to me. A lot of great relationships I've realized I've lost, you know, money as well. There's a lot of money along the way. You know, it's that confidence. I think, it's the one thing I have to stop myself, you know, ruminating on, because, you know, without self-belief, like you're a bit fucked in life. You need it. You really need it to do things that you want to do. And I have to work really hard day to day. Like it's a full-time job.
It truly is.
Working on self-belief and confidence when you've, you know, someone who has hated themselves their whole life.
How do you think you identify whether you are getting the balance right between sitting with your feelings and rumination? How do you quantify that?
I think
asking for a friend.
For me, it's, you know, again, I think it's all the meditation yoga has brought the awareness of it. So I'm not sort of in it and about knowing I'm in it. So I've got awareness of it. And it's usually in my morning, before I even start moving, I'll do like my writing and all this stuff. And if I notice myself throughout the day or in that moment, you know, holding on for it for too long and it's starting to impact what I need to be doing,
yes,
then I'm in it too long.
Okay.
Right? So using time like meditations and my movement to get the rumination there and have that space to release it, be kind to myself in those moments. But you know, if I wake up another day and I'm still in that same zone, then it's too long for me. Like I just don't. I feel like I've wasted so much time doing that in my life that I want the balance. I want to be able to sit with it and not have to run away from it and go and grab a drink, or, you know, run away and think I need to numb this pain.
Yes.
I want to sit with the pain, but process it. So, you know, journaling, meditating, sound healing, have space. I have space now where I can receive and be still. And I think that's how I found the balance, is there's a place for it. It's not being avoided anymore.
That's really good. The self-confidence, like how do you best support yourself in that daily struggle of finding that self-belief, of cultivating that?
Evidence. And I screenshot a lot of things like feedback or accomplishments, and I try and, you know, anything that makes me feel like I'm doing what it is that is in alignment and authentic to me and what is meaningful to me, I try and anchor it. Because with ADHD, and obviously all human brains have a stronger negative bias, but ours is very strong. And we tend to remember things that have a strong emotional attachment to it. So I think the aim of the game for me is, if I can get really happy times and anchor those when they happen, then I've got something else to turn to as well. So for instance, happy place.
So you have screenshots.
Happy place went really well. That was a moment of a real proud moment for me, that last one. So I immediately just thought, right, I need to anchor this. So for me, it was going to get this bracelet. So now I can look at that and I can get an emotion straight away of feeling enough, and that I
did that. Yeah.
Music can do that for me too. Visuals for some people, prompts. I have a lot of clients that use, like, quotes. Some people, a lot of my clients are getting tattoos when they anchor something.
Well, I've always wanted an anchor tattoo.
Yeah,
I might get one.
Because I think that's it. The science behind it is, we need to really, our memories aren't
these visual reminders.
Yeah, we need some anchoring, and I think that's going to balance out that negative memories and that negative emotional attachment we've got to things. If we can sort of keep building evidence, it's like being in court, right? Build the other evidence to balance it out a little bit, so we can remember it.
It's hard. It's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah, that's exactly it. So, for example, there's been some really massive wins for me this year as well. Like Flackstock. When I got nominated for the National Diversity Award, Positive Role Model, which I still think is the funniest thing in the world. I did too. So, like, I screenshotted all of the lovely things that people said, because I was literally in floods, like, reading these wonderful things that people said. I screenshotted them all. They're all on my phone, and I've just completely forgotten that they're there.
Well, if you put them in a folder, because put them in a folder saying you are enough, or don't give up folders and things like that. But even the act of doing that, you're anchoring it though as well, right? So, and day to day, like, I do wins of the week, wins of the day. Every morning, the first thing I do is write a thank you letter. Thank you for, and try and think of all, no matter how much my brain wants to just take me down a comparison route or something that morning, if I'm in a negative headspace, I will always start the day with thank you. But there's always something to be thankful for.
My dad does that. My dad has done that every day for about 40 years. It drives me fucking mad when your parents are right, isn't it? That man said to me, Laura, you need to write your gratitude list every morning. You need to get into computers. There are loads of things that he told me. The fucker was right every time.
The thing is, you come to these things in your own way. But gratitude, I have to say, people call
I could have listened 20 years ago, Rosie.
You had to come through it and be this person and go on this journey. You won't appreciate it the same way if you did it then. But gratitude is so simple and so cliche. I'm telling you, it's the most powerful thing I think you can do, no matter how crap you feel. It bloody works. And it's something we can all do. You don't got to write it down if you don't want to. Before I go to bed, I'll just try and think of one thing, even if I'm in a complete state, an utter state of, oh my God, I hate life right now and I can't deal with it. I will just sit there and go to bed and go, what's one good thing that you're grateful for today? And there will always be something. For me, moving my body, like moving my body every day is the biggest thing I could be grateful for right now,
I've been tracking the glimmers, like little glimmers. And the only way that I remember to do it is because social media content is basically the bane of my life still. All these years later, still.
I don't know how you've done it.
So honestly, I don't. And so that's one of the things is I track my glimmers of the week. I'll put it in a reel or photographs and I'll be like, these are the glimmers. And that's one of the ways that I remember to do it. But then I get all of this guilt because then it's like, do I look like I'm boasting on social media, or am I putting across this unreal, like somebody said on social media the other day, I'd posted a reel and she was like, oh my God, you're having the best time. And I was just like, oh fuck, well, no, I'm not, because I've just moved house. It's quite stressful. I'm trying to figure out my medication. I'm trying to figure out what my next step is. So I'm not having the best time. But in those moments, they were the moments that I was having the best time, and I'm trying to show gratitude for them. It's such a funny one, but I do need to bring it back to a more personal than public way, but it's remembering to do it.
Yeah, but the thing is, Laura, like it's like we hold guilt around, because obviously there is that sense of Instagram just showing all the good things sometimes and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, you be showing up and showing people the great times as well as the real times when you're struggling. You're enabling them to do that as well and look at their own life and go, oh, actually, I've got this thing that I did similar to that. That's great. And also giving people hope. Everyone knows your story and what you've been through and how things are a struggle. To see that you are still able to enjoy your life is a really great thing. Like, they are telling themselves every day how shit things are because their brain wants to tell them that more than it wants to tell them the good stuff. So I think we need more of people that have been through struggle showing that life can be good when it is good, even if it's 5 minutes. That's
and I need to get over the imposter syndrome and the fear that I'm making myself visible
You're
in that
allowed to enjoy yourself, Laura. You're allowed to have good things happen to you.
Like I said, I'm nervous about it, but I'm stepping into uncomfortable terrain and going, okay, maybe if I show the good bits, I won't be in trouble for it or something. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
You won't be in trouble for it. Enjoy your life, though. Yeah, but you really deserve it. Enjoy, like, you're allowed to have, there's enough bad times. You're allowed to have good times too, right?
Yeah. I know we've been talking for fucking ages and I need to wrap this up, but I was always going to be, right, tell me this not ridiculous, but incredible morning routine. Break it down for me. What is it that you're doing each day?
So obviously over the years and over every couple of months, I have to resparkleize it a bit and change it around so I don't get bored. But currently, I get up between 4:30 or 5, sit on my sofa, and I will write any chaos that's going on in my brain, not even filter it, just get it out. Then I will stick on a meditation. That can be a guided meditation, or that could be just music that I do my own meditation to. And then I'll do my thank you. And then I'll do, how it is I want to feel and what it is I want to, achieve that day or this year, or, start to focus on future outcome stuff. That can last between like half an hour. And sometimes if I get a bit carried away, like an hour. Then I'll do movement. So usually something at home first, like some sort of weighted thing. And then I will get out on a walk, 90 minutes. I really aim to do 90 minutes a day of walking. That's the best bit of my day. And then I often go to a class as well. So I'll go like yoga or reformer. And then I come back, eat, and just crack on with the day. My morning routine's ridiculous, but that's been the pleasure of working for myself. It's dangerous because, it can go on too longer than it needs to be. But now I'm able to schedule that face-to-face stuff don't happen till a certain time. And I can have that time and I need it. Yeah. And, but yeah, that's basically it. I think that's everything really
Oh, that'll just about do, right?
God knows what I'll add to it next.
Go on, tell me your glimmer of today then. Tell me what you're grateful for today.
I'm grateful for this, Laura, today. I'm really grateful.
I'm grateful for you.
You know what? I am so grateful because meeting all of you, like you, James and Sarah, I am always grateful for you guys that are there for me, as personal friends and through the struggle. And then when there's something like this where I've said, right, I'm ready to talk about this thing professionally, you're there with a yes. And that for me is so valuable and, something to be so grateful for because it's rare. Not everyone's got people like that in their lives, especially after going through what we've gone through. Yeah.
100%. And I love that. I think definitely with you and with James, it's always been like, we're a community. There is no competition here. We're here to support each other. We're in the same boat. And I love that so, so much. So what would you like the listeners to know?
If you are in a place of struggle right now with ADHD, that this quote often helps me is, this isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And the good times when they happen and the times when you find that inner strength haven't happened because, despite the struggle, they've happened because of the struggle. And I think learning to accept those struggles is actually the way we go on to create more meaningful and authentic lives. So I'd say to them, if you are at that place and you can't see that, look back at all the things and times you've struggled, which won't be hard because your brain will find them very easily, and connect the dots is what I call it. Connect to the dots exercise and think to yourself, what did I learn from that? And how did I grow from that? And how did that get me somewhere else? Build evidence that the struggles are often the most valuable things that can happen to us. And because we've got ADHD, we've got a lot of them, which means we've learned a lot.
Bloody hell, I needed to hear that. You're talking to me.
We can use them for really, to really step forward in completely different ways, in really positive ways, if we can sit with them, accept them, but also just get curious about them and say, what was that here to teach me? Like, what am I going to do with that?
I love it so much. Thank you so, so much. What would you like the world to know? And I know that there are a million things, but if you could just put one message in the head of every single person in the world, what is the message that you would like everyone in the world to know about ADHD?
That what you see on the surface, what you might think someone is just not trying hard enough, they're making excuses, they're working really fucking hard underneath it all. And not only that, that if you could accept and treat people with ADHD, do not underestimate them, because they are some of the most talented and gifted people I've ever met. And actually, by accepting them and being kind to people and understanding is how we create a better future for society.
Compassion is key, 100%. Okay, what song best describes your ADHD?
Stronger by what's her name? Kelly Clarkson. I'm not even a massive Kelly Clarkson fan, but I remember when I got diagnosed, I had it on repeat. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think that's it. And that's not even my genre of music, but I think
that's perfect.
Resonates. Yeah.
That's perfect. What is the most ADHD thing you've done this week?
I was in a desperate hunt to, last minute fundraising for this cycle. So I was like, right, I'm going to send a big broadcast on my WhatsApp to get fundraising. And I was in this mood of like hyperactivity. I've had the same phone for so long. I've got like everyone I've ever known, ex-boyfriends, ex-bosses, friends I haven't seen in a million years. I've overshared my whole life story and sent it. And I literally went to bed like fine. The next day I woke up, I thought, you're not okay. What's that about? And I started to look and I was like, you sent this to people that like, you shouldn't even have their number anymore. I had a moment. I just thought, I just don't know if that's okay. But I did get a lot of fundraising from some people from it. But the majority of people didn't reply because they must think she's absolutely lost the plot. Thank God. Thank God we sacked her. Thank God we dumped her. Thank God we're not her friend. I bet most of them thought.
Well, all I have to say to that is thank God that Rosie is my friend. I'm so glad and grateful to the legendary Rosie Turner. We really have been such a support network behind the scenes for literal years now, which is why, as such a constant in my life, I didn't even realise I hadn't done a proper interview with Rosie, but here we are, and I'm so, so glad that we finally got her very important messages out there to the world. Now, my most ADHD thing of this week is that despite making noise about the London to Amsterdam cycling fundraiser for literally ages now, I can't think how many episodes, the link to sponsor has been included in the show notes, I still haven't actually sponsored them myself. So luckily we can still make donations. So I'm going to do that right now and you can do it too. If you missed Sarah Templeton's interview last week, Sarah is the CEO and founder of ADHD Liberty charity. So do have a listen to that. And it's ADHD Liberty and ADHD Adult UK, the ADHD Adults charity, that the 14,000, whatever I said, pounds is being donated to. So very, very good causes. Now, October is ADHD Awareness Month, and the theme is awareness is key. Last year, and I will talk about this more in another episode, I tried to start a campaign. It didn't go to plan. However, what I've realised is, although I can't do all of the things, much to my frustration, there are things that I can do. And what I do have is this platform, this podcast, and a wonderful community. So I wanted to take what I do have, utilise ADHDAF in all of its forms and use my skills as best I can this ADHD Awareness Month. I have been lucky enough to have a lot of conversations over the last few weeks with ADHDAF community legends. If you've not already heard the first mini community episode that went out yesterday, you can do so. The link to do so is in the blurb of this episode. I'll be sharing another one tomorrow. I think there are 8 in total. Numbers aren't my thing, but I'm pretty sure I've got 8 extra episodes going out this month. Recording these interviews have been my glimmers of many days. And another glimmer that I would like to share of this week is unbelievably and seemingly inexplicably, the podcast listens have shot up considerably in the last week, and that I'm so grateful for that, but it's already confused me with my dyscalculia. I'm like, how have I got about a month's worth of listens in like 2 days? It's been really crazy, really exciting. So thank you so much for listening, and welcome to the Leopard Print Chaos. If you are a new listener, you know, I didn't come into this space as a podcaster with a platform. I came into this space as a late discovered ADHD on my knees, to be honest. I don't know quite how we pulled it off, but I was in a really desperate desperate headspace, having just discovered, and just that I wanted to build a platform to help others like me. In managing the social media, very quickly, there would be people saying, well, we need more real people, not just podcasters and famous people talking about ADHD. And I was like, but that's what we are. We are the real people. But as soon as you have a platform, you kind of shift into this other space where you are viewed as an expert or somebody that definitely knows what they're talking about. Whereas in actual fact, what I've been doing is just sharing my lived experience on the safari of discovery. I've literally dragged you all along on this roller coaster with me, not just in the ADHD space, but in the podcasting world. We have people that have platforms and they're all interconnecting to share their stories and doing amazing work. So it's really important to me that alongside the normal episodes, such as this one with Rosie, is that I get the word out there of people that don't have platforms. Because at the end of the day, we have spent our lives not being heard or having our voices dismissed or taken away from us by an unaware society. We've got to get the word out there. So I would really appreciate it if you could help me this ADHD Awareness Month by writing a review, if you listen on a platform that allows reviews, or hitting those stars, because all of them are going to help get these incredible messages from the community out there to as many people to widen that reach. So let's hear it for the community. Let's hear it from the community. I've got so many legends telling me all about what they would like the world to know about ADHD, because this podcast is listened to all over the world. If they could share one thing to just get it out there in this crucial time, in this crucial month, to help literally save lives. So do have a listen, please do have a share, and please do hit those stars or write a review to help me get it out there. And if you would like to connect with us all, the online peer support, you can join the Leopard Print Army on Patreon for all sorts of online events to literally connect with the people whose messages I'm sharing. So there are going to be many announcements over the course of this month. I've already announced one in this crucial conversation with Rosie, which is that I will be taking a break from weekly podcasts to take stock, catch my breath, to enable me to do the best work I can with this space that I've created. The last episode of this month will be a very special episode, and it will also be the last of season 3. So there will be big announcements coming up. I want to say thank you to everyone for your support with ADHDAF Emporium, which soft launched back in July, I think. If you have applied to be one of the neurodivergent makers or small businesses that will be championing in that space, both online and in person, then you are going to be hearing from us very soon indeed. And you can also apply via the link in the show notes. And I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has been purchasing the creations of our neurodivergent makers, because you're supporting the community in their creative endeavours and wearing your ADHD awareness raising jewellery created literally by the hands and minds of ADHD and ADHDers. Now, alongside the 10% from Emporium profits that will be donated to ADHDAF Plus charity, the ADHD Awareness ribbon pins created by Rebecca Cowley of Working Clasp. They've got a leopard head, that metallic leopard head for the Leopard Print Army, and a neon orange ADHD Awareness ribbon. Now, lots of you have been purchasing those to wear for the month of October in solidarity for ADHD Awareness Month. £5 from every single one of those will go direct to ADHDAF Plus charity. And I will be making a big announcement about that this month. But one announcement that I can make right now, which I'm very excited to share, is that the 3rd annual ADHDAF Day is on Friday, the 25th of October this year. It is a floating date because I'm not good with dates anyway. So I think it's funny that it changes every year, because I wouldn't remember if it was the same date every year anyway. So this year it's on Friday, the 25th of October. And like each year, I invite you all to wear our uniform. So leopard print, if you can wear at least one, if not head to toe, at least one leopard print item on Friday the 25th of October, either take a picture or a video and share your one piece of key awareness that you want to raise. What would you like the world to know if you had one message to share? If you can share that with me in your post that you tag ADHDAF podcast on socials, either on your story or in a post, then I can share that and we can all be sharing and just literally paint the world leopard print on that day, the 25th of October, to raise global ADHD awareness. Now, every year, I'm always overwhelmed and in awe and so grateful of just, literally turning the world leopard print. But it does make a difference, that visibility, all of us having our say, standing shoulder to shoulder in solidarity in what is literally the trenches in this fight for ADHD awareness in ADHD Awareness Month. So date for the diary, 25th of October. And if you can help me also just get the word out from people who are on waiting lists, who are self-diagnosed, who've been misdiagnosed, mistreated their whole lives, and share these very special mini episodes that I have coming out over the course of the month, and hit those stars so that people can find them, I would be so grateful. And I'm ever so grateful, as always, to you for listening and helping me raise global ADHD awareness. I really, really appreciate you helping me to keep pushing for systemic change, because, my God, it is needed. Big love.